Oh, okay, so they won that last World Series, and as soon as they won it, they're like, okay, let's go ahead and sell off the whole team.
Right.
So that really put a really distaste in a lot of people's mouth. But guess what? That's what the Yankees did for many times, but yet they reloaded. The Marlins didn't do it. But that was the Florida Marlins. This is now the Miami Marlins. Whole different picture. Okay?
Clearly different. They added brighter colors.
So will A-Rod go back home to Miami and finish career and possibly get home run number 700 as Barry Bonds is his hitting coach?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Okay.
It's
I'm
a
with
nice
you.
dream, right? Like I think it'd be really cool because with all the crazy stuff that happened to A-Rod, like all the steroids and getting shafted by the league because he wouldn't admit to it and all that stuff.
Right.
Like I think he deserves to go out better. He was a better player than he's getting his retirement for. Now, I'm not one of those people who thinks you need the whole horse and pony, every team gets you a prize retirement.
AKA David Ortiz.
And
Yeah.
here's the thing that kind of drove me nuts is the manager of the Yankees says, "Hey, I'm not here to run a parade of retirement ceremonies going on, but guess what? Hey man, you did that last year with Mariano Rivera.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they put on a show for him, but when it's A-Rod, it's like, yeah,
What PEDs does for you right there.
exactly.
Right, but like the Yankees are new to players who use PEDs. Like
Really?
I mean, I'm just
That's a surprise to me.
right. I mean, they're brand new. It's never happened. So of course, this one guy is going to be treated poorly. It's a new thing for them. I mean, it just seems so crazy. The whole thing in sports is hypocritical. As long as a guy doesn't get caught, he is adored and loved by everyone. And the moment he's caught, the franchise turns on him to try and save themselves.
Okay, Ryan, why do you think that A-Rod will not go to Miami and finish his career out as a Marlin? You give your reason, I'll give my reason.
I just think he's like, I think this Yankee thing's left a bad taste in his mouth, and he's just kind of done. I think he's just had enough, and that like he's been put through the ringer the last 2 years with all the suspensions and stuff. He hasn't played much. He hasn't really been given a shot. He's just kind of been tucked away in the corner of baseball, and no one's really given him a chance. I just think that he's like he doesn't have anything really left to prove, and most people are just going to be skeptical of any success he has now anyway. What's the point?
Okay, so the reason why I don't think he's going to do it is because it's a National League. He's going to have to go out there and play the field. Now, do I think A-Rod has it to play third base, shortstop, or first base in the National League? No, not really. I don't think he's an everyday player anymore. If anything else, he's a DH. He's going to have to be an American League player. And that's the reason why, even though there's I have a four-page article written from the Miami Herald by Greg Cote. Great article. I mean, he explains why it's not going to happen. It's because A-Rod's not an everyday player, even though he is a Miami Golden Boy and everybody loves him in Miami, even though he cheated the game.
Okay, so last baseball thing here. Give me your World Series matchup. Who is it?
Oh. See, this is the hard part because right now we're at that stretch. Just a couple weeks ago, we were looking at it looked like the Astros were about ready to take over. It looked that way. It looked like, and then
What's their record against the Rangers again this year?
they won one game
Out of
out of way
12?
too many.
And way too many to count.
Right. So
yikes.
that's a problem right there. So the problem with the Astros is they can't beat anybody on top. They're great at beating people at the bottom. At the top, whole different story. So.
Okay, so your now that your biased team has been eliminated.
Well,
where
hey,
do you
at least I can say it, okay?
I'll eliminate my teams before they're even in the conversation.
National League, definitely the Cubs. Definitely,
I
the Cubs.
sure hope so. It's been a long time coming, right?
And it's going to come. I think it's going to come between the National League Central and the National League West. So it looks like San Francisco and Chicago might meet up for your pennant race. That's what I'm thinking.
San Francisco's just so good in the playoffs, always.
Right.
They have been for the last decade.
And it's kind of funny how I just kind of like, I forgot about the Washington Nationals over there.
Who have done really well against the Cubs.
Yes. And I'm just kind of like this kind of written them off.
I just need someone else to knock them out, and we'll be all right.
So I think that your the Giants or your West team will be the ones that knock them out.
I hope so. Okay, so what about The American.
Oh, the American League. See, silently, the Texas Rangers are still the best team in the National League, right?
I would have to agree. I mean, I'm trying to take my bias out of it, but just the moves they made at the deadline, and you just look at that lineup from 1 to 9, I'm just, it's just crazy, but I still look at their pitching staff, and I'm just like, they're kind of lacking.
Derek Holland comes back. I think he pitches Saturday.
But Derek Holland
it could be as soon as this weekend. They don't have a for sure.
But Derek Holland is getting blown up in AAA or wherever he is right now.
And he's been coming back for 2 years now. Right? Can
forever.
You really bank on Derek Holland?
He's always been that, he's going to be the next up-and-coming ace. He's been that for like 5 or 6 years now.
Well,
and
that's because
since
he's been
2011.
injured for 2.5 of them.
Right.
He's
best known for his Harry Carey impersonation during the World
Series.
Which
is hilarious if you haven't heard it.
So, I question the Rangers pitching. I really do. And if it comes, I don't know who's coming from the American League.
And I mean, when you look at the Cubs, with the moves they made, their real hole was their relief pitching. Now their relief is shoring up with Chapman, and their hitting is unstoppable. They have like 4 or 5 home run games. Like, that's unbelievable. And they're all like, usually they all come from different people. So it's like, top to bottom, I think they have the best batting in baseball at the moment, and I think their pitching's in the top 5. I think.
Oh, they have the best pitching out there right now.
I mean, I'm not gonna. Again, I'm trying to like leave my bias a little bit at the door here.
Oh, you can.
But again, they're a 74 win team already, or something crazy.
But there is one team that we're not talking about that I think is going to make a deep October run. That's Cleveland Indians.
Okay, I was getting ready to bring them up.
Those guys are killing it right now and coming out of nowhere with
they have great
and Salazar.
They have great pitching.
Wins in the playoffs is great pitching.
Great pitching.
Yep.
They kind of remind me of how Kansas City sort of just built up out of nothing for a couple years, and then were like really good and kind of underestimated. But they played small ball, they did all the right things, and they would end up beating teams that were on paper better than them.
Speaking of Kansas City, 1 game under 500 after that remarkable season last year.
It's crazy.
Hey man, once you get your ship, you do. It doesn't matter anymore, right? Like, you got your ring,
right? Okay, so hey. This is what I was somewhat impressed about the Rangers during the trade deadline, that they didn't. You needed a starting pitcher. Chris Sale was out there, but the price was way too much.
Yeah, according to some guy for the White Sox said that they wanted like their top 4 or 5 prospects from whatever team they wanted to give them to.
They wanted Profar,
Gallo,
Mazzara. And I forgot who the 4th one was.
Lewis Brinson.
That's it.
Who they ended up trading anyway.
I'm sure they were just like, yeah, no. And
that's
and they walked away.
That's way too much to ask for. So I think the losers coming in the trade deadline was definitely the Chicago White Sox. They should have shipped off Sale.
Now they get nothing
for him. So I think it's an absolute waste that they were asking way too much. They should have got what they could have got.
So now that we've talked baseball, I feel like we're fairly caught up. Let's shift after the break back to one of my favorite topics, fantasy football. The football that matters. The football where you can win some money.
Millennials.
My dad is more diehard than I am, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit of fantasy football, or at least Brad and I will, and we're going to find out why Dave doesn't.
The Texas Strangers are back with your hosts David Carson and Ryan Gano.
All right, welcome back. We're going to talk a little fantasy football. Now, you're not going to get very much out of me from this segment because
we're going to pry it out of you, Dave.
Okay, go ahead. Let's go ahead and pry it out of me.
Give me your top 3 reasons why you don't play fantasy football.
Well, number 1 is that I don't think it's any skill involved in it. It's all luck.
There's a little bit of skill. It's mostly luck. I'll put it that way. Mostly luck, but there is a little bit of skill involved.
Dave, have you ever put a coin in a slot machine?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy putting coins in slot machines?
No.
Do you ever play blackjack?
Yes.
Do you enjoy playing blackjack?
Not really.
So you just don't like to gamble at all?
Well, see, if we're going to play cards, we're going to play Texas Hold'em poker.
What you don't want to play with, but that, I mean, that's probably 50% skill, 50%.
Well, there's a chance.
There's a chance you can lie your way out of it, right?
Right. There's a chance
bluff.
I can bluff my way out of it. Okay. There's no skill involved. There's no chance. I mean, if you're going through your draft, okay, and one thing comes to another, because let's look at it. Okay, was that 10, 12? What leagues how many people are in your leagues?
Depends. It could be 8, 10, 12.
I know it's 8, 10, and 12.
I'm in a lot of leagues, and you know this, so I think 12 is usually the standard.
Is there a 14?
There are 14 teams.
Yes.
There can be a 16-team league, and that is
insane.
It is some weak players on your roster towards the last round.
You're getting like third-string running backs and fourth-string receivers as your starters. And
what is? Because I really don't know.
Right.
Okay, so what is the average that most people play?
Like leagues or amount of people? Anywhere
leagues.
Between, it doesn't matter.
Leagues.
Between 10 or 12 is probably the most common.
Okay.
10 would be like, we couldn't find the other 2 people to fill our league, so we went to 10, is usually what happens.
Okay, so let's say we have a 12-man league. Okay?
All right, I'm in.
Okay, so you get through the first round. All right? I'm going to say a quarter of those players that you drafted don't make it past week 1 or 2.
A quarter in the first round?
A quarter.
That's 12 picks. I would say once you're through the first round, I would say there's probably one person that doesn't see the end of the season in the first round.
Oh yeah,
maybe 2.
I'd
say 3. I'm saying 3 or 4.
No, that's way too high. I like, as someone who plays a lot of fantasy football.
Well, the reason why I say that is because the people that I talk to that play fantasy football, like, oh, my first pick, he got hurt, and my second pick, he's
that's
down
where your
also.
Skill comes in trying to replace him.
And your ability to be up at 4 a.m. when the waiver wire rolls over.
Yes.
Okay. Really comes in at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I mean, you're that
you can claim them before.
No, my dad is, though. My dad
You're
will
that
be
diehard to wake up at 4 in the morning.
No, you can set it because usually there's a waiver order based on your standings and stuff. And so you're going to get who you're going to get. But if people don't put in their waiver claim, you jump them. So.
Okay.
Very true.
I will say, okay, so here's my rebuttal to you, is that I'm trying something new this year, and it is called a Dynasty League.
See, now when you brought this up to me a couple weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a while ago, maybe a month.
And the more I thought about it, that's more intriguing. Now,
I think so too.
Okay, now getting a new team every year, where like, oh, hey, guess what? Tony Romo is my quarterback again. Duh, you've always picked Tony Romo.
Now, what is a Dynasty League? I've never done that
Okay,
before.
so a Dynasty League is a franchise. Like, you draft one
like
major
Madden,
draft.
pretty much.
Right. Okay, so there's 12 of us, and we'll each draft a regular fantasy football draft, right? But there's
this year.
This year.
Okay.
And there's a precedent set on picking like mid-level young talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you take Adrian Peterson, he might only be good this year, or maybe not even.
Mm-hmm.
And you have everyone on your roster every year. So you keep your players. Now, here's where some things change. You can trade your draft picks. You can trade, but every draft from next year onward is a rookie draft. We're no longer drafting like rookies and free agents, right?
Oh, okay.
So your waiver wire shuts down at a certain point, and then you can redraft some picks for rookies and free agents before the regular season starts, like just after the NFL draft.
Okay,
is usually when you do it.
I do like that.
I can trade my picks.
That's more intriguing than going DraftKings and FanDuel.
Right, and then and I don't do that, right? Like I don't do the weekly fantasy sports thing. One, it's kind of a sham, and there's been some really sketchy things like basically the equivalent of insider trading being done on those.
Yep.
I play in a league where we all put our money in a pool.